If you walk the docks of almost any marina in North America right now, from the sun-bleached slips of Florida to the grey, choppy harbors of the Pacific Northwest, you will notice something unsettling. There are boats that haven't moved in months. Not just a few neglected dinghies in the back corners, but rows of vessels, some ostensibly valuable cruisers, sitting silently, gathering dust, their sales signs fading in the sun. You have likely seen the listings piling up online, the price cuts slashed in bold red font, the motivated seller edits that smack of desperation, and the endless forum comments about baby boomers dumping their fleets and sinking the market. It feels like a clearance sale at the end of the world, but if you think this is a simple story of a market crash, you are only seeing half the picture. The headline, "Boats are cheap," is technically true, but it is also dangerously misleading. Because right now, the sailboat market isn't just falling, it is fracturing. It is splitting violently into two distinct realities, with clear winners and very, very clear losers. Tonight, we are going to untangle the truth from the dock talk. We are going to bypass the clickbait screaming about total collapse and look at the actual mechanics of what is happening. By the time you finish reading this, you will know exactly which boats are in free fall, which ones are holding their value, and how to buy or sell in this new, ruthless reality without getting smoked. I am not here to sell you fear. I am here to show you how a generational handoff, a post-pandemic cooldown, and a brutal insurance reset are reshaping the sailing world forever. If straight, no hype analysis helps you make smarter financial moves, then buckle up. Let's start with the myth everyone loves to repeat. It's a boomer dump. That is the narrative. The baby boomers are aging out. They are flooding the market with inventory, and that is why prices are tanking. Directionally, this is true. Factually, it is a lot more specific and nuanced. The average registered sailboat over 25 feet in the United States is roughly 34 years old. The owners who bought these boats at the peak of the sailing boom in the 1980s are now in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s. This is the natural, inevitable end of a decades-long ownership cycle, not a sudden panic induced by the economic conditions of 2025. And look at the pipeline. New sailboat sales in this size class are only around 700 to 800 boats a year, while the scrap rate, boats leaving the fleet forever, is around 3,000 a year. Read that again. The fleet has been aging and shrinking for years. So yes, boomers are selling, but the bigger truth is that the fleet itself is old, the replacements are few, and the math has been upside down for a long time. Now, here is where the wheels come off the traditional market logic. The inventory that boomers are listing is exactly the inventory that younger buyers do not want. The new cohort of sailors, millennials and Gen Z, values access over ownership, low hassle over high maintenance, and tech over tradition. They want solar arrays, modern lithium systems, Starlink connectivity, and minimal downtime. They are financially squeezed by housing costs and inflation. They are time squeezed by the demands of modern work, and they simply do not dream in terms of a 30-year refit project. So when a 30-plus-year-old production monohull hits the market, the target buyer looks at it and sees a trap. The seller sees a treasured asset from a golden era of fiberglass. The buyer sees a liability that needs standing rigging, sails, wiring, plumbing, canvas, electronics, maybe fuel tanks. And spoiler alert, might not even be insurable. We will get to insurance in a moment, because that is the accelerant that turns a softening market into a freefall for that exact type of boat. Before we go deeper into the mechanics of the crash, let's sanity check the big numbers. Brokerage data leading into late 2025 shows that the median sold price for sailboats in the US is down roughly 3% year over year. That is not a crash, that is a correction. Days on market are up about 15%. Think roughly 6 months to sell a boat on average, and the average discount off the asking price has widened to a little over 7%. That is a cooling market, not a collapse. What hurts right now is liquidity. The days of list on Thursday, sold by Tuesday that we saw in 2021 are gone. Sellers who still think it is the pandemic boom are just sitting there, confused and angry. That is where the pain lives. Time and negotiation, not a universal price crater. So why do so many docks feel like financial carnage? Because the median price hides a split market moving in two opposite directions. On one side, you have the haves, good catamarans and truly turnkey monohulls, with recent sales, rigging, engines, electronics, and clean surveys. Those still move. Prices have corrected from the COVID bubble, sure, but well-presented boats get attention and can go under contract quickly. On the other side, you have the have-nots, older production monohulls that haven't been refit. That segment is getting hammered. Buyers do the math. Put 30 grand into a 30 grand boat, and you might have a very nice 35 grand boat. Meanwhile, insurance says, we'll pass. That is the collapse people are feeling. Let's layer in the other two forces shaping the tape right now. First, macroeconomics. High interest rates, sticky costs, and cautious consumer sentiment are playing a massive role. In the low-rate environment of 2020 and 2021, buyers were everywhere because money was cheap. In 2024 and 2025, financing is harder to get and more expensive to service. Dealers are desperate to move new inventory, often slashing prices on new models, which puts downward pressure on used prices. And the true cost of ownership, slips, parts, labor, has climbed significantly. That is a headwind for discretionary purchases. It doesn't kill the market, it just slows it. And slow is painful when you are trying to sell a depreciating asset. Second, and most importantly, insurance. This is the accelerant almost nobody accounted for. After a run of catastrophic losses from hurricanes and storms, combined with rising reinsurance costs globally, the marine insurance market turned hard. Many carriers simply walked away from older hulls. In a lot of regions, particularly those exposed to named storms, the practical line is 20 to 30 years old. Even a clean survey doesn't guarantee a policy for a new owner. And grandfathered coverage, where an existing owner keeps a policy but a buyer can't get the same policy on the same boat, is now common. No hull insurance means no loan. No liability policy means no marina slip. No policy and no slip means your pool of buyers shrinks to cash-only private mortgage unicorns who have their own dock. That is not a market, that is a fire sale. And in hurricane-exposed areas, the named storm deductibles now make even insurable boats feel riskier. The end result is simple. A whole class of aging project boats just became unfinanceable, undockable, and therefore unsellable at normal values. Let's make this real with a quick story to illustrate the trap. A buyer finds a late 80s cruiser that looks great on paper. The survey is stellar, the hull is dry, the engine runs, the price is fair. But 3 insurance carriers say no because of the boat's age. The seller's current insurer says, we'll keep the current owner covered, but we won't write a new policy for you. A carrier like Progressive might offer liability only, but that is no good for a bank loan or for protection against a storm. This isn't an opinion, it is a brick wall. The boat transitions overnight from a nice family cruiser to something only a cash buyer with a private yard and a high-risk tolerance can touch. The value collapses. That is how boomers are dumping boats, transforms from a meme into a measurable price hole for that exact segment. Meanwhile, the other half of the market tells a completely different story. Catamarans remain sticky because they serve 2 big buyer groups: charter operators and comfort-first private cruisers. Corrected from the bubble? Yes. Dead, not close. A good Lagoon or Leopard is still a liquid asset and often goes under contract within weeks. Not all of them, and not at peak pandemic money, but the buyer exists. And then there is the turnkey monohull premium, boats with up-to-date rigging, recent sales, clean engines, modern power systems, maybe a solar arch, and real lithium batteries. Those command attention and sell at a premium because they remove the one thing today's buyer won't tolerate: hassle. Here is a counterintuitive stat that proves the split. Early 2024 data showed new boat unit sales were actually up, while average new boat prices dipped. Why? Dealers were clearing post-pandemic gluts with aggressive discounts and better financing incentives. At the same time, used boat unit sales fell double digits, while the average price rose. That sounds like magic, but it isn't. It is mix shift. The cheaper, rougher stuff stopped selling, so it fell out of the average. The sales that remained were higher ticket cats and refit monohulls, which pulled the average price up even as overall volume fell. Again, two markets, one soft and selective, one in freefall. So what do we do with all this information? How do you navigate a market that is broken in such specific ways? Let's talk buyers first, because if you are shopping, this is the best leverage you have had in years if you aim at the right targets. First move, insure the boat on the phone before you even fall in love. Do not ask, can it be insured in theory? Ask, will you insure this exact hull for me at this price in this zip code with these storm deductibles? Ask insurers what they need to see to say yes. Rigging age, survey scope, electrical upgrades, cot count, keel bolts, through hulls, fuel systems. Get that checklist. Then shop to the checklist. If 3 carriers won't touch a model you are considering, walk away. Your slip and your bank are going to ask the same questions, and you don't want to be holding the bag. Second move, buy time as much as you buy hardware. With days on market stretching and discounts widening, patience is money. Watch a target boat for 30, 60, 90 days. If it is still there, your offer gets better. Sellers feel every monthly marina bill, every insurance premium, every bottom cleaning fee. Time is on your side. Third move, hunt change of plan boats. Someone prepped for a blue water run, refit everything, spent the money, and then life happened. A health issue, a family change, and they listed the boat. Those owners rarely recover their refit spend. You get the benefit. These are the closest thing to bargains this market has, because you are paying for gear and work at a discount and skipping the lost season of being stuck in a boatyard. Fourth move, if you want a cat, pounce fast, but negotiate hard. A clean Leopard, Lagoon, Fountain Pajot, or Nautitech that is well optioned and survey clean still moves quickly, but the bubble hysteria is over. Bring data, bring comparables, and bring cash or pre-approved financing. Ask the big question on cats. What is the condition and age of standing rigging, trampolines, sail drive seals, and the high-dollar canvas and cushions? That is where the hidden costs lie. Fifth, move on monohulls. Calculate total landing cost, not just the sticker price. Add rig, sails, electronics, canvas, windlass, chain, dinghy, outboard, batteries, solar, charger, alternator, safety gear and bottom paint. If you are buying an older cruiser, don't hope the prior owner did it. Verify it or price it into your offer. In this market, optimism is a tax you cannot afford to pay. Now, sellers, especially of older boats, let's get practical. If your boat is a classic 1980s to 2000s production cruiser with original systems, here is your playbook. Step 1. Stop thinking like an owner, think like an underwriter. What would an insurer need to see to say yes to a new policy? Rig age and documentation, a proper out-of-water survey with moisture and structure readings, updated shore power and DC protection, hoses and seacocks that meet current ABYC standards. If you can bring 2 or 3 of those high-risk items current and document them, you convert no into maybe and maybe into yes. A buyer who can get insurance becomes a buyer who can get a loan and a slip. That is real value. Step 2. Make the boat turnkey enough to move. You will not recoup a full bow to stern refit, but you can absolutely recover smart, targeted upgrades that remove buyer fear. Think new standing rigging if it is beyond its service life, fresh running rigging, a clean service on the engine with receipts, new house batteries and a modern charger, a basic solar package, and a current readable electrical panel. Then stage the sale. Recent photos under sale, an honest inventory and a folder with invoices. The more you look like a change of plan listing, the less you look like a money pit. Step 3. Price for 2025, not 2021. Watch your local comps. Watch days on market. If you want activity, you must lead the market down, not chase it. Remember, a 6-month wait plus another 6 months of slip fees, insurance, and surprise bills can erase the extra 5 grand you thought you would hold out for. Step 4. Have a plan B. If insurance flat out kills your value where you are, consider selling where carriers are friendlier, or shift to donation, auction, or parting it out. It is not romantic. It might be rational. A clean exit at scrap floor value can beat a year of bills and a slow slide into oblivion. Let's zoom back out to the bigger picture. Where is this going? Because this isn't one market anymore. It is really 3 distinct markets operating in parallel. Market 1 is the growth market, access instead of ownership. Boat clubs and fractional ownership programs are exploding because they have solved the hassle factor better than any brochure ever could. You get predictable monthly costs, modern boats, and someone else handles the broken bits. Younger buyers love it. Plenty of boomers love it too. And every person who chooses access over ownership is one less buyer for a 30-year-old fixer-upper. Market 2 is the stable but soft brokerage market for the haves, cats, and turnkey cruisers. It is a buyer's market in the sense that you have time and leverage, but desirable boats still get picked first. Expect longer negotiations, modest discounts, and more thoughtful surveys. Expect to pay a premium for refit proof. That premium is cheaper than doing the work yourself. Ask anyone who has tried to replace standing rigging on a schedule in the last 2 years. Market 3 is the collapse, uninsurable project boats. This is where the prices are crashing clips are coming from. It is not that every old boat is worthless. It is that the ones that cannot cross the insurance bridge are relentlessly converging on scrap value. Until insurers relax, and there is no sign of that in the near term, this segment will keep sliding. Regional note because it matters. The sharpest pain is in North America, particularly storm-exposed regions like Florida and the Caribbean, where carriers pulled back the hardest. In the UK and France, reports sound more like a selective and mixed bag than a collapse. Well-kept boats that need minimal work remain attractive. Germany has been limping, but the dynamics there are different, with more modern used yachts competing with new inventory. The common thread across all these places is selectivity. Present a clean, current, insurable package, and someone will want it. Present a museum piece with a to-do list, and your buyer pool is close to zero. Okay, practical checklist time. If you are buying in this market, here is a quick 5-call sequence that saves you months of wasted time and thousands of dollars. Call 1. Call 2 insurers first and get a yes/no for your target model and year. Call 2. Call the marina where you would keep it and confirm liability requirements and hurricane plan expectations. Call 3. Call a local rigger and get ballpark pricing for standing rigging and a timeline. Call 4. Call a surveyor and lock dates. Good surveyors are busy again. Call 5. Call the seller and request receipts and ages for rig, sails, batteries, standing safety items, and any osmosis work. If those 5 calls don't line up, don't waste a weekend on a boat you can't own. If you are selling, run the same sequence in reverse. Talk to an insurer about what would make your boat a yes for a new owner. Talk to a rigger about updating the single scariest item. Talk to your marina about transfer requirements. Talk to a surveyor about a pre-listing survey to get ahead of surprises. Then package that work and price accordingly. In 2025, the best marketing is an invoice. Where does this go next? Interest rates will eventually ease, which helps financing. Dealer gluts will clear, which removes downward pressure from brand new boats with giant rebates. But the insurance reset isn't likely to snap back quickly. Those actuarial tables don't forget storms. The demographic handoff doesn't reverse either. The fleet stays old for years because new deliveries are so low, which means this split market is the new normal for a while. The wrong boats will keep getting cheaper. The right boats, clean, current, insurable, will keep finding homes, Let's land the plane with a simple, slightly uncomfortable truth. Boats aren't suddenly cheap. The wrong boats are suddenly cheap. Aging, unrefitted monohulls that collide with the new buyer's preferences and the insurer's risk tolerance are being repriced to reality. Meanwhile, boats that remove hassle, cats with clean histories, and monohulls with documented refits still command respect. If you adjust your plan to that reality, you can win. If you fight it, you will sit. Tell me what you are seeing where you are. Empty slips, packed yards, price cuts, bidding wars on clean cats? Drop the stories in the comments. Your local data helps all of us make smarter decisions. And if this breakdown helped you see through the noise, make sure you are subscribed. We are going deeper on the insurance workarounds, the exact refits that move a boat from no to yes, and the buyer scripts that save you real money in a cooling market. I read every comment, and the next story might answer your exact situation. Fair wins and smart offers. The reality of the current market is that perception lags behind data. For the last 3 years, sellers have been operating on muscle memory from the pandemic boom. They remember their slip neighbor selling a leaky 1985 Hunter for $40,000 in cash in 2021, and they anchor their expectations to that anomaly. But markets are ruthless correction machines. The anomaly is over. What we are seeing now is the hangover. The inventory that is piling up isn't just old boats. It represents a misalignment of value. A boat is only worth what someone can pay for it, and more importantly, what someone can keep it for. When the cost of keeping a boat, insurance, slip, maintenance, exceeds the utility or joy it provides, the asset becomes a liability. This is the fundamental equation that has broken for the entry-level cruiser market. Think about the psychological shift for the buyer. In 2021, the fear was missing out. If I don't buy this boat today, someone else will, and I'll be stuck on land during the pandemic. In 2025, the fear is buying a mistake. If I buy this boat, will I be able to insure it? Will I be able to sell it in 5 years? Will I spend more on the refit than the hull cost? This shift from FOMO, fear of missing out, to FOBU, fear of being underwater, is what drives the increase in days on market. Buyers are doing due diligence again. They are walking away from bad surveys. They are negotiating hard on survey findings. This is healthy, but it is painful for sellers who aren't prepared. Furthermore, the role of YouTube and social media cannot be understated in this dynamic. The sailing dream, sold by influencers for years, often featured couples fixing up cheap boats and sailing around the world. But as those influencers have upgraded to newer catamarans or left the lifestyle, the narrative has shifted. The content now highlights the struggles of boat ownership, the endless repairs, the costs, the insurance nightmares. This has educated the buyer pool. The naive buyer of 2020 who bought a project boat with no survey is gone. The buyer of 2025 watches channels that break down the cost of refits spreadsheet by spreadsheet. They know that a cheap boat is the most expensive kind of boat. This education gap closing is bad news for anyone trying to offload a deferred maintenance special. Let's look deeper at the insurance crisis, because it is the linchpin. It is not just about age, it is about density and exposure. Insurers have realized that marinas are density traps. One boat catches fire, 10 burn. One hurricane hits a direct strike, hundreds sink. The premiums reflect this aggregated risk. For an older boat with a low hull value, the premium required to cover that risk often doesn't make sense for the owner. If you have a boat worth $20,000, but the insurance costs $3,000 a year with a huge deductible, you are effectively self-insuring. But marinas require liability coverage at a minimum, and many are raising the limits to $500,000 or $1,000. Finding a carrier to write high-limit liability on an old, unsurveyed hull is becoming nearly impossible. This regulatory and financial squeeze is forcing boats out of the water and into storage yards, where they deteriorate faster, further depressing their value. It is a vicious cycle. However, there is a silver lining for the hands-on sailor. If you have the skills, if you are a diesel mechanic, a rigger, or a fiberglass pro, you can pick up incredible hulls for pennies on the dollar right now. The market is discarding solid fiberglass boats simply because the systems are outdated. If you can self-insure, liability only, do the work yourself, and don't need a bank loan, 2026 is going to be a bonanza. You will see reputable blue water cruisers, Valiants, Island Packets, Pacific Seacrafts, listing for prices that would have seemed insane 5 years ago. But this is a niche opportunity for the skilled few, not the general public. For the average buyer who needs to pay a yard for labor, the math still doesn't work. What about the charter market? The ex-charter fleet is flooding the market as operators refresh their fleets post-pandemic. These boats are generally newer but have high engine hours and cosmetic wear. They sit in that middle ground. They are insurable, they are financeable, but they are tired. This adds another layer of inventory that competes with the private seller. Why buy a 2005 private owner Beneteau when you can buy a 2019 ex-charter Beneteau for a similar price? The newer hull, even with high hours, is easier to insure and finance. This pushes the value of the older private boat down even further. So, the strategy for 2026 is clear: adapt or perish. If you are a seller, you must professionalize your listing. Clean the boat, fix the critical systems, get the paperwork in order. You are competing in a beauty contest where half the contestants are being disqualified before they even walk on stage. Be the one that qualifies. If you are a buyer, wield your power responsibly. Don't be a tire kicker, but be a ruthless investigator. The market is giving you the opportunity to buy a dream without the nightmare, but only if you follow the rules of the new game. The suddenly cheap boats are a warning sign, not a gift. The true value lies in the boats that have survived the purge, the ones that are still sailing, still insured, and still ready for the ocean. Those are the ones worth fighting for. And as we move into the next year, watching how the insurance industry pivots, or doesn't, will be the most important indicator of where prices go next. Until then, keep your eyes on the horizon and your wallet in your pocket until the survey comes back clean.